Just notice everything. Just notice that everything slows down. You're completely aware. You just stay as this awareness. Even though there is a little movement in the room, doesn't matter. You stay here. You don't have to define or categorize. Just watch. Just allow this natural silence. Every moment you watch. Whatever arises in your mind, or whatever kind of sensations arise in the body, feelings, sensations through the senses, you just watch. You just allow your experience to be natural. See how every little thing comes, stays for a while, and goes. Don't fall into the games of the mind. Just stay here. If you're drawn into thoughts, come back. Just watch. You must give significance to the mind for it to be able to draw you. So if you just watch and don't go into the thoughts, just notice how they come, stay for a while, and go. And all falls into a background of silence. This silence is awareness itself. And it can be a bit confusing at first, just staying without touching anything. But just allow yourself to be accustomed to this, to get used to it. every time, every moment that you spend here expands the vastness of this silence. Even though the mind says things about the silence, you can watch those from the silence. This silence is always there. This is the background for all your experiences. And when you're not identified with any thought, when you have not in any way split your mind in two, all that remains is this deep, vast silence. And this silence just radiates love. Not the kind of love that chooses one object to love and that dislikes another. No. The complete love. The unconditional love. This is your inner nature. We might only forget it because we start to identify with the mind. But as soon as you let it go, you fall back into the vast stillness of the mind. You stay alert. There might come sleepiness, there might come things. All those are some kind of resistance to resting in this vast stillness. Because the egoic mind doesn't always like it. It has no space there. And you continue to watch as you slowly open your eyes. notice that this watchfulness, even with the open eyes, that it's still there. You can notice the thinking. When you're listening to me, it's still there. You're looking around, still there. It's so easy for the mind to compartmentalize meditation into the practice of just sitting under perfect conditions with your legs crossed and your eyes closed. Move it out of this space. When you're standing in line for the food, just watch. And the more you come back to it and you notice, the easier it becomes. It's not a complicated thing. Sometimes this practice is referred to like an advanced meditation practice, to just watch, because you don't have an object, and people also used to have an object of concentration. But I think if there is a little calmness, you can quite easily notice. Because the meditation doesn't have to be a struggle. It can be quite soft and simple. It's so easy to, please. It's so easy to go into meditation, start to feel like it's very, very important, because you start to understand what a profound effect it can have on you, and you become very stiff and serious. And this will not help you. It's beautiful in a way that there is a fire that really feels like meditating, really to find out, who am I? But there's a risk in this, of becoming very serious. So just notice your body. Notice also what happens when you stay aware. Maybe your shoulders start to get a little bit tense as you try to concentrate. See to it that the body is also relaxed. It's a very small thing, but it will help you. It's easy that the thighs get a bit tight, also from that you feel that you have to have some effort to stay aware. Just notice. Just stay with the sensations of the body for a few seconds. there is just two main things when it comes to meditation. Staying aware and not to identify with thinking. The first one, very straightforward. The second one feels for most people a little bit trickier. Because you have so much relationship with the thoughts. As soon as the thought comes and says I, you assume that it points to something in you. And it's so easy to go with that. So, and if you don't put any energy into that, if you don't buy the concept of I, then there is no problem. There is not even a problem using the word I, which some groups try to eradicate. Because, I is the identification that happens, so you try to take it out of your vocabulary. But this does not help. Much more important is the embodiment and the understanding of this. If you see the thoughts, they say something and you don't believe it, then it's nothing. Some things that you might hear, maybe you hear people talking on the bus. You know nothing of them. They can say quite terrible things, but it does not affect you. Because you don't believe that it has anything to do with you. So this belief of our thoughts, and actually it's only the thoughts that want to tell you something about your identity that is a problem. All the thoughts that just say practical things are not really an issue. But as soon as they try to grab you like this, and they can seem it can seem quite straightforward when we talk like this. Yes, it's just being aware and just seeing the thoughts that tells me I'm identified. But the egoic mind is also quite complex and quite cunning. It can use other ways, you will notice. Like small, subtle ways. One time I sat in meditation and my teacher's voice came to me and it said, all is one. Like a thing that he actually said. But this pulled me out of the meditation because in that was a wanting that everything should be one. Do you understand? So it created duality instead. And these are the subtle ways that the mind can split you into. I just want to tell this because you will sometimes be surprised, but how can I have lost it now? And if you practice this seriously, there is a great chance that there will be a lot of peace and a lot of space in your life. And it's so easy also to go into the feeling, I got it. I feel peaceful. This is it. And I'm so happy that my teacher told me, when I told him, Swami, I feel so happy. Every day there's so much love and so much spaciousness. And he just looked quite firmly at me and said, Atmananda, you keep practicing. Because it's so easy to relax in that and lose the practice. And the mind, it loves to come creeping in. Take over again. And it can also play you with, you got it. This is it, you found peace. And the mind is on it's so cunning. You just want to make you aware of it because it can play you from all kind of. And the mind can also be very, very subtle in its ways. If you are very observant and you watch the mind and all the me, mine thoughts, the thoughts can start to subside. They can be less, but they can still be a very subtle feeling of egoic mind. That is still want something, for example, want something to happen. These kind of attitudes can be non-verbal thoughts that are still. Notice all this when you watch your mind. In the beginning, it's easy to see the big lumps when the mind screams and says like very clear things. It's easy to watch. And the more you watch, you will see these subtle things. Because if you don't touch the mind all the time, if you don't identify with it, pull everything from it, it will quite quickly subside. The conscious part will quite quickly go more still. But you will sense it if you're aware of it. You will notice that there are very subtle things. And I also want to say that it can also play to your fears. From what I've seen of the egoic mind, it loves three things: to play on insanity, loneliness, and death. And some version of those. And that's when the mind gets desperate. When it goes for the big ones, it feels like the meditation is regressing because some big fear might come, or you might identify with this a little bit. But when the egoic mind gets that desperate, that is a sign that it starts to subside. You will also notice that the egoic mind doesn't, if you go really hard into it, for example here, and you just stay aware, as I said, in the food queue, and whenever you're walking around, and even in conversations, you try to just watch the mind. You will also notice that the egoic mind will rebel a little bit, because it's not used to having that little space. And the other way that you can be filled by this stillness is also if you go into gratitude and to this very, you sing with all your heart at the kirtan. And you have this feeling, this connection to this trust to the universe. And you express this. That's also a way that the egoic mind has very little space in that, because gratitude is never dissatisfied. And the egoic mind needs something to be wrong, something to not be complete. It loves to split in two. And I always, when I talk about this, I feel like it sounds in a way that we're putting down the egoic mind so much. But it has a great quality. It shows you how you're stuck. It's a guru. And especially if you really stay aware of your experience, you will notice that it will reveal itself. And it will reveal itself sometimes a bit stupidly, a bit too much. And if your mind goes really quiet, it can sometimes start to even scream. But it feels like a faint voice at the end of a corridor. But it will try everything to stay relevant. And all these are signs that your practice is going well. But I just want to talk about this because it's so easy to get confused. To think that any of those thoughts that when the egoic mind comes stronger, that the meditation somehow doesn't really work, or my practice is not working because the mind is so, it erupts. And you will notice if you go into these very still pockets, it will fight back. And I'm just saying, don't be afraid of that. Because you're something that has a lot of space mentally for you, you're suddenly saying you have less space. And it's so used to play you in different ways. So it will try those, and if you don't react to those, the normal ones, the everyday tendencies, it will get more desperate. And it will go for the big three: loneliness, insanity, death. And it's quite common that it says things like, if you continue on this path, you will get crazy, no one will understand you, no one will want to be with you. And you can also have these strong feelings of leaving also everything behind. Because the known is this world of thoughts and thinking. That is the world that most of us feel like the safe world. The world where we feel like we have control. The world that makes sense. That we created these beautiful adults, like we do as adults, we create these stories around all our feelings and why we feel like that and why we did that and why we did this. All this is just mind. And in one person, maybe two people experience the same thing. But one person feels fearful about it and the other one loves it. Like standing on stage, for example. One person might dream about it in their nightmares, to be put on a stage in front of people. And another person just loves it, enjoys it. And this is mind. It's so subjective with those things. And if you watch it, you notice that it can create anything. But the greatest thing in us is the stillness, Because from the stillness, everything comes. And it also gives a stability to everything. If you connect with this stillness again and again, you will notice that there is like a background to everything. That feels safe, even though the little you is fearful. There's an experience of fear, but on the background of the safety of everything. It's a weird paradox that we can experience, but it's also beautiful. And you will watch the fear, how it comes, how it stays for a while, and how it goes. And to many people at some point, they find the practice scary. It happens for most people. You like the meditation to a certain point. You like the meditation when the mind becomes still and you feel more okay. But when the ugly things start to reveal themselves, when there is space enough for all shame and anger and distrust and maybe hate even, and this start to reveal itself, many people say, "Oh, I think I'm going to take a break from meditation now. It was nice in the beginning, but now it's not really comfortable." This is very, very common. But this is also a sign of progress. And then Swami will come and say, "Don't stop." And even if the practice feels overwhelming, just still practice, but you can keep it short sessions. Or don't stop. And you will say, "No, but now it's just grief. Oh no, it's crazy now. I cannot practice in this." The mind loves that. Then it has you again. And you will notice that the egoic mind won't like that you just keep practicing whatever happens. The egoic mind can also enjoy meditation to a certain extent, when it just feels, from the egoic mind's perspective, quite harmless, and that you just feel a bit better. The mind loves this kind of progressive thinking. And it would love to tell everyone about your practice, and that there's a practice for a year now, and I just feel better and better. It's so nice. It's just like all those ads with the white-dressed people on the beach being happy, meditating. It's just like... Don't be fooled like this. Meditation is it's a mirror. You will start to see. Be very clear what is going on. Because if you're just in your mind and if you're just blaming the world and you think that everything is external and I'm suffering because this is happening or that is happening or that person said that, or then you're completely locked. But when you start to notice that everything comes from you, and this whole world it's you. And you might say, but how can it be me if I watch it? Then it has to be something and I have to be something. But that is just part one. Part two is to start notice that this watching is everything. It's usually 3 steps. The first is that you think that the world is external. That you're a victim of things. Things happen. And you feel very small in that. If you have that sense, you feel very small. And the second step is that you partially start to understand that, but there's also things that come from me. But you say partially it's the outside world also. And of course the third thing is to understand that it's all me. Yes.
I was wondering if you see everything as a reflection of yourself, or in what ways would you describe everything being you?
But I would say we all do. Whatever you hold is what you see the world as. If you have a sense of separateness, you see others as separate. You understand? And even if you're in a glimpse, see everything as one, then you see everything as one.
Do you always see everything as one?
There can come identification, but it usually doesn't stick so much.
Thank you.
And just be aware of also when you think of things that is happening in the world and you say this affects me like this, look inside. Do you understand? As soon as you're pointing out.
Is this always the case? So like, I'm really just exploring this right
Yes,
now, right? Like,
yes.
like let's say you're being like possessed by some demon or something like that. Or you feel that anyway.
Mm.
Would you then be like, no, I mean, I look within and I see what
If you see yes, if you see the stillness within, and you see this idea of I'm possessed by, let's say, a really crazy idea that you're possessed by something. This is just the egoic mind identifying us with those thoughts. It's all happening in that space, and you can invite it in. Or as long as you relate to it as fear, this thought is terrible, I don't want it, then you split yourself.
Yeah.
So many people who start meditate, they try to resist their thoughts. They think it should be silent, I should resist my thoughts. But please don't. Invite everything. Even if the thoughts are terrible. And there will be one part that will resist that and say, I can't live with this kind of thoughts. But that is resistance. And that again is splitting into two. And if you can invite all of it, even the darkness, you will notice that it will evaporate in the light. Because you are light. Nothing can touch that. Nothing can destroy it. Nothing can take it from you. The only thing happens is that you identify with a thought and you get confused for a while that you're something else. Just taking a little detour. And so spend time here. And then you can easily just invite your experience. The things that you're scared of, you can look, see how they come, how they stay for a while, how they go. It's the only thing that has any permanence. Everything else just has this play, has this little dance, coming and going, coming and going, coming and going.
Because when I feel stillness, like I rest as awareness, I get so intensely touched. So I'm so deeply touched.
You're touched.
Yeah,
Yes.
with so much gratitude and so deeply touched. Is that because I think it is because I feel I'm coming home, or
Yes. But do you feel like this feeling has to be there?
no.
No.
It's just overwhelming and
Yes. Yes, because it is our home. It's very much our home. It's the foundation of everything. But why I ask this thing is if you expect those things to happen, because it's so common that we associate some kind of form with the awareness. You understand that something, this is how it feels, this is the conditions that I am aware in, this kind of play, this kind of games. And awareness is always there, even though there is sensations and emotions that makes you feel terrible. they're still on the background of awareness. And even if you're super identified with your feelings and really feel, I am this feeling, there's still a background that's just aware of that.
But it always has to be, for me, it's impossible to, it must be still. Because some people can just like lean back into the stillness anyway, but I only a place like this or going into the forest. But does it needs many years of meditation to be able to lean back into the stillness everywhere?
No, there is no time acquirements on those things. But it's most common that people who practice more then find it easier. But it's actually very much also a question of what do you believe? When do you believe you can stay as awareness? Do you understand? That there can just be an idea that these are the ideal conditions for me to... When I'm at Ängsbacka, I can. Or... Do you understand? So, because of that, it's very good in your normal life, whatever you do, to check in. And if you start to prioritize your practice very highly, you will check in situations where you're fighting with your partner or in a situation that's maybe uncomfortable. But since you start to check in those, you understand? It would be so much easier also to break the egoic mind structure around those things. And in the beginning, you will feel like you are chasing it to stay as awareness. And then after a while, it will just start to come. It will come in situations that you would never think that they would. It just start to chase you instead.
Feeling the space we're in, and the surrounding, and listening to it. Sometimes it's like that when I meditate, but sometimes also like I sometimes fly away and visualize that I'm other places and stuff like. But it's better to kind of.
Yes, because it's so easy that as soon as you feel like you control or go somewhere else, they're so easy for the identification to sneak in. Mm-hmm. Stay with things that are happening in this moment. And this visualization can also happen in the moment, but then you stay as awareness. Because as soon as you're really into the visualization, then yes, then you have given your energy to the mind and it takes you. Oh, this is nice. Yes, that is the egoic mind. So, and these kind of things, you don't think of them as negative things because your visualization is probably lovely. Yes, so you don't think that there is a problem here. But that is a perfect example of how the mind likes to go. It shows something nice. It's about, oh, yes, I want to go with you. And then you give your energy. And this is also all the time the mind, that's how it can trigger you. It puts something in front of you that is pleasure. Oh, if you do that now, it's going to be really nice, and you can and you buy into it. And we don't see that every thought has there's two sides to the coin. If there is pleasure, there is pain. But the problem is not the experience of pleasure if there's no attachment. But as soon as you want the pleasure. You want it to stay. You want it again. The chocolate, the hug, the whatever it is. Then the identification starts to play part. Otherwise, it's just a hug is happening, chocolate is happening. The two most common examples. Do anyone have the time? Yes, I have a little.
It's 8:05.
5:08. Good.
You said when it's like fear and all of these uncomfortable thoughts happening during the practice of meditation, you should follow, like you shouldn't stop.
No, you just stay with it
You
and invite.
just stay with that.
Yeah.
But if your whole life become a meditation,
Your whole life is meditation.
yeah,
Because all meditation is staying as awareness. I just want to make this very, very clear. Because I think many people have the feeling that I've started to meditate now. I took up a practice of meditation. But actually life is this. It's not something that we add. It's not a foreign thing that is brought in. It's just being more natural with our experience. Not going into the contortions of the mind, but staying with this spaciousness that is naturally there. You don't have to, and I know in the beginning it can feel like, yes, sometimes it comes, this awareness or beingness, it comes and then it goes. It feels like a thing that comes with the meditation practice, but it's actually the other way around. That is the neutral ground, and everything else is a thing that is put on top of it. All the beliefs, all the
so you just want to say that just continue living, right? Or
yes, stay as awareness. Stay silent, watch the mind. Don't try to fix everything. And just invite those things into your space. And the nice thing is, if you trust me enough to just try this, you will see the effect of it. You don't have to believe it. It's not a fairy tale that I'm sitting here telling. You try it and you see that it works. I think there was someone over here.
Yeah, we did experience it as children, didn't we? All of us being in that awareness.
It's very common that people who start to practice meditation say, I was watching birds when I was a child, and I felt this exact thing. The fragrance of awareness was there.
Yeah, just being.
Yes.
Without labeling.
Yes. And I also get the question sometimes that if I think it is possible for people's children to jump over this phase of creating a egoic mind, and I have bad news there. It seems also very natural in the evolution, our mental evolution, that we create an egoic mind, but at a certain point it just starts to be heavy. And when we age, usually it becomes heavier. The mental backpack with all the things, all the strategies, all the thoughts of who I am and this. It becomes a bit heavy. So also there's a bigger chance that the older you get that you start to get interested in these things, because you start to feel like the process cannot be to add and add and add and add. there has to start to remove. And that process is quite simple. Stay as awareness and invite your experience into that. That will create space, and the old tendencies in Vedanta is called the vasanas. They will come up to the surface, manifest as an old trauma or fear or whatever, and they will go, and they will be more spacious. And sometimes you don't notice, you just practice and you just let everything flow, and you will notice later. In my practice, I noticed one day that my fear of dogs had gone. For many years, when I was a child, I had a fear of dogs, and I noticed one day that that response didn't come. And there weren't a particular thought that come, oh, this is my fear of dog thought, and then it goes. It just somewhere in the process, whatever caused that just was gone. So don't expect that it will come. You will see everything like like the credits of a movie. Sometimes it just goes and it just feels spacious and you don't know what left, but it's fine. Was someone else? Yes.
So I have it's very unclear in my mind what I'm actually trying to say. It's a question, comment, reflection. And so, like in me, there seems to be a lot of resistance when I think about going deeper down the path of meditation, whatever that means, with an idea of, like there's this idea of rigidity around it, of a dedicated practice and a certain way of being in the world that feels quite limiting.
The image of being a meditator. Yeah.
And where there feels to be very little space for play, for craziness, for expression of all sides of me that would feel like a loss. And I could see them maybe just falling away over time, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't give me what I'm actually looking for. But right now in my life, I'm just like, nah, I wanna...
Yeah. Before I become a monk, I want to explore some more. I want to have some more pleasures, and I would want to have a lot of sex. And, yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. But no, but this is a very valid question, and
and I don't think it's a contradiction, but I can't see how it's not.
Yeah, but this is the idea of how a dedicated meditator is. That's all that is. If you let go of that image, you can be whatever you want. And I think in many monasteries and in many of those traditions where you, for example, live in celibacy, there from my experience, quite few people who find that very pleasing. I noticed a lot of people who feel very, very suppressed in their sexuality, for example. And I don't think this is I met some Buddhist monks that didn't want to give a pen directly to a woman. They had to place it on a table and she could take it because it was... And if you start to make things like that sexual, then I think you're in trouble. So, and I, of course, if you want to go into specific traditions where there is a lot of rules, then you have to follow the rules. But then those rules have to be things that you would have chosen yourself. and that you just feel like they add to your practice. But I haven't sworn any oaths or abide by any rules at all. I can live my life however. So don't let it limit you. I understand the idea of it can be like that, but don't let it limit you. And also that the idea of if you have to look a certain way to be a serious practitioner, it's nice if they come in all shapes and forms. Much more important to be dedicated here than in this. So, yeah, do what you like. Good. How much time?
It's 5:19.
Okay. Do you feel like doing a meditation? It's a very simple mantra meditation that I've done it so many times with my teacher. It's just called Omkara, and we just recite Om together. You just follow me for like 10 minutes, and then we just sit in silence, maybe 15, 20 minutes, something like that. And then again, 10 minutes, we just recite Om. And I just want to show you a practice that it's just nice for the body that there is something. You will have something to hold on to, you will chant this thing, but stay watchful. But it will just be nice for the body, and the breathing gets so nice when you do the long Oms. It's just nice. And you keep your mind away from drifting too much. And then there will just be spaciousness and silence for a while, and we just sit together. And it's always such a nice thing when you're a group and all the energy is the same. Everyone is here for meditation, so we just sit in that silence and we enjoy it. And just watch. And just be relaxed in this watching. It's also very common that you really try to watch. And if you have that tendency, then just see if you can relax a little bit, just inside. And you just notice. And if you're too chill, then you will start to feel a bit tired, and you will drift a lot. Then you have to be a little bit more alert. It's really it's a fine balance. But you're just saying it so that you can try it. If you notice that you get dozy, you can just, have to focus and just watch. So sit comfortable, find a comfortable position. And just follow me. Whatever comes, you just stay. Maybe there is restlessness in the body, you just stay. You notice restlessness. You watch the mind say, my knees hurt. And you watch the sensation in your knees. Just watch. Watch the sensations of the body in your emotion. If you feel frustration, just allow frustration to be felt. If you feel a little restlessness, just be aware of how that is expressed. Are you all right? Challenging? Yes, for some. Don't be afraid of the body. If you're super uncomfortable, change position. But also just notice your body. Notice the resistance that is there. If a knee is uncomfortable or the back is uncomfortable. Notice that there is a play that doesn't want this pain and separates. All resistance to thoughts creates separation. This is a very good thing to know. Because even if the content inside your mind is terrible, if you resist it, it will persist. If you invite it, it will fall back into the stillness from where it came. This is not me saying that. You try it, you practice, and watch. If this knowing gets established in you, and you start to notice that everything comes and goes, this is such a relief. Because when you're in pain, even if you have identified with the pain, there is something in you that knows this too will pass. It's just the nature of things. And the problems get created when we split into two. When we say, that is one thing that I don't want.
Say it one more time. If there is resistance.
If there is resistance, it persists. Do you understand? Whatever you try to avoid, you empower it through your avoidance. It's another way to put it. I'm sure you have noticed that if you fear something, it will come to you. But this is beautiful. This is the guru. This is the teaching that is just coming to you for free. It just shows you where you're stuck, what you resist, what you try to push away. And it's subtle. Like the pain in the body, when you don't resist it, it's just pressure, it feels a little bit, but the suffering part of it is all in the resistance. Otherwise, there's just a little experience of pain. But as soon as there's someone having pain, You understand?
I have a question. I have a sensation, like I had something in my body, yeah. And, but I remember I was in a singing teepee, and it was so little place for each, and I thought, I cannot stand here for more than maybe 10 minutes, because it's hard for me to sit there and same position all the time. But as long as I was singing and we sang for 4 hours, same position, no pain.
No.
Between the songs, okay, I got pain.
Yeah.
But then singing again when you are in this, forgot it.
This is beautiful what you describe, because that is you see the play of the egoic mind when it locks in. If you go to bed and before you go to bed, you just stay as awareness and go to bed. You can sometimes notice in the morning when you wake up, you notice when the egoic mind clicks again. Especially if you worry about something or it feels heavy, it's like the space of the deep sleep is there, and then you notice the transition into, and the backpack is there again. And also if the egoic mind don't click, when you sing, for example, you can feel very free, and as soon as you take a break, it comes back. It's beautiful what you describe. Because this is and to just be aware of those things that makes you see through the illusion. The ego tries to hold a steady image in front of you, saying that this is you, this is what's happening to you. And in certain moments, you just see cracks in the painting. You just see the light shining through. And when the cracks have started to appear, it's very difficult to not be curious about them.
There's one thing that sits in like this, because what you're describing, I've experienced it myself, like pain transforming and so on, but it also feels like an easy way of crossing one's own boundaries. Like he can
Yes.
push this.
Yes.
I guess as far as he can.
Yeah. Yes, that's why I also said, if you feel very uncomfortable, please just straighten your legs a little bit. And it's not a play of, because some people also go into this, the practice, yes, it should be quite uncomfortable. And this is a personality type. Yes, and that it becomes, I had a good friend of mine, he's very focused in what he does. And he said, yes, after we talked about meditation, I got pumped about it, and I was sitting in the 30-degree sun meditating, because making it a bit more difficult. And I was just, Gustav, please. This is not helpful, because it's also, from what you notice from just sitting here for like 30, 40 minutes, for most people that is quite challenging if you're not used to it. If you have some meditation practice, maybe this feels easy, but for many people, only this small sitting is challenging. And if you feel comfortable, you still have to deal with this. And if it gets quiet, you have to deal with the old shit that comes up. So, and not being drawn into it, not trying to dissect it, not to, yes, now I have gotten hold of my old trauma, now I just have to dissect it, and no. Just allow it to come, stay for a while, and go. And as one of my teachers said, just like when you're done your thing in the toilet, you don't have to take a stick and look around, you just flush.
I notice in me this resistance with staying present with bodily sensations. It could also be strong emotions and so on. Like So I'm willing to, you know, I don't know, challenge this resistance, right? But like within me, there's this idea that it's important to transform the emotion by somehow either breathing into it or
Yes.
like moving it, like let's say you energetically try to move
Yeah.
it, or you go through some sort of bodywork therapy, something rather,
Yes.
one thing or the other, and like just purely observing it. Something in me is like, no, that's not true. That's not enough. That's not enough.
Yeah, it's too simple. It's too simple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can explain it in 1 minute, and you heard of all these techniques that are.
And I tried it, and then it's excruciating pain, and I go into something else instead.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have any comment on this or.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really try it. Because you're on the fence about it. You're like, you have 1 foot in trying it,
Yes.
and 1 foot is out,
Yeah.
and in the old. So if you really want to try it, you have to jump in. You were at my last class as well, and I said you have to start fresh. When you come here, start fresh. Don't bring all. If you want to try this, try it and see how it works. But don't mix it a little bit with other things, because then you're almost out the door already. You have to commit. You have to trust. And you have to let go, because this thing in you that makes it feel nice when you're doing things with it. Because the egoic mind loves that. Because then it feels like the egoic mind is healing your trauma. You understand?
Yeah.
So then there is a prize at the end where the egoic mind can say,
I did it.
I did it. But the universe just happens. And if you trust that, you will start to see it. But you have to let go of that control. You have to jump in with both feet. You can't have 1 foot on the shore and dip your toes a little bit. And this is the scary part with it. And the mind will say, this is not going to work. Of course it will say that. Because it wants to keep you where it can have a prize, where it can be the master. It wants to sit, it sits on the throne right now, and you're the servant, bowing, doing its bidding. If it says, go this way, you will go that way. But you are the king, walking around in rags, praying to a false king that is made in the mind. Do you understand?
Yeah, like surrendering to my ego. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Right?
yes, you give into it.
Yeah.
Yes. So it will resist. Even if you try this simple thing and you say, I'm going to do this for 1 week, or to make some time boundary about it, it will resist. It will say, no, it won't work, or because it loses its grip in it. Because that will start to show you that the egoic mind has no power in this. It is weak, and it wants to seem strong.
Another note.
Yes.
I'm sure you will have the same answer to it, but I'll ask you it anyway. Like solving a problem. Let's say you're having an issue, emotionally issue, whatever, with another person. So I mean, this can occur. Problem solving with the mind, trying to solve this issue, which might occur between you or another person. Is this beneficial, or is something that you should just observe the emotions and let it pass?
Yeah, yes, but sometimes it can require, for example, that you, when you bring it into your stillness, you watch it and you notice it, and it can come to you. Okay, I hurt this person. I have to apologize. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yes, and these things can happen, or it can be helpful, but it's not needed, because everything is in you. if you have a quarrel with someone and that person dies, it's not that you're stuck with that that problem forever then, because that person, it's in you. It's all here. So look, and the more comfortable you get with it, the easier you will have to have when you're relating to other people. Because some people also hear that, yes, you should be truthful and all this. Yes, I'm going to be truthful. I'm going to tell this person what I really think. And that is when it just gets into the egoic mind, gets hold of it, and see what is happening in you. That's where the splitting happens. That's where the conflict happens. That's where you suffer your emotion through this two-ness. You rip yourself apart. Notice that it happens. And we're so used to doing it, so we think that this is normal. Everyone talks like that.
So the idea that I need this other person in order to solve my emotions
Yes,
or mind.
that is just an idea.
That's just an idea.
Yes. And all things that have to do with I'm not whole or I'm not complete or cannot be happy, I cannot be happy with this other person. That creates so much separation. I know this is normal talk. People say that all the time. I'm looking for my other half and this kind of... But that rips the mind. It says you don't have the right to be feeling fulfilled until this puzzle piece is there. And if you're looking for a harmonious relationship, if you're at peace with yourself, it's no problem. Otherwise, there is so much attachment and there's already so much entanglement in having a close relationship.
I was wondering, would you say that everyone can be happy while being the observer alone?
Yes,
like
yes. But when we talk about alone, we also have to understand that everything is one.
Right.
So the loneliness and every meal you have, if you start to think of how many people are involved in that food getting on your plate, it's insane. It's thousands, tens of thousands maybe even.
I'm more like in this place, like we need people. Ultimately.
Yes, but I think they're quite avoidable. They're unavoidable.
No, I mean you can go to a cave.
Yes, you can sit in a... Yes, okay, now I understand your question. You can do that, but it's also very common that becomes avoidance. Because the drive of being so isolated often means that I suffer so much in relationship with others. There can be a very pure part that longs for that wants to go to a retreat or wants to be secluded for a while. But watch yourself with those things. If you have a longing for that, watch so it's not just an avoidance. Because at some point there will be interaction.
All right,
Yeah, life will happen.
I'm more like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and some people feel very peaceful when they're in a monastery or they're by themselves in like the perfect conditions, and then they go down into the city and it's just chaos for them. So that is also like a compartmentalized peace. It's the same thing as you say, I am peaceful when I sit in my meditation pose with my eyes closed and everyone is silent around me. But otherwise, it's not really possible to meditate.
Okay. Like,
This is what I mean by compartmentalizing.
all right, and maybe it really doesn't matter, I think, it's coming from curiosity. So if you are awake, right? Would you feel comfortable being alone up in the cave for long periods of times? Like, and would everyone who are awake in this sense feel comfortable with this? Like, do we need people around us when we are confident in our observing?
I think that relating is still gonna happen in ways. Naturally. And of course there are certain things. If you're less entangled in your egoic mind, certain things are easier with relating, because there's not a conflict of who does this emotion belong to, or is it me, or is it these kind of things that many people struggle a lot with. Those things will be much more clear. So, but don't also strive for some other conscious state, and don't go looking for enlightenment. You are enlightened. You are awareness. It's not something you can hold as I won the game. I have this now. And Krishnamurti said it so beautifully. There was a man who came to him who said, I am enlightened. Well, there were a lot of students and a big following. And Krishnamurti just said, but when you say that you are enlightened, it's like taking some water from the sea and say, I am holding the sea. No, you're holding a little puddle of water in your hand. That just makes it tiny. Avoid to make it complicated. It is simple. I feel like I have to go back to this time and time again, because people always want to do something with it. There's always a strategy, or there's always like a way of should I hold my mind more like this or like this? But is that the right way to observe, or am I observed? All these things. But there is no point from where awareness looks. It just is. It is very simple like that. We just are. And the mind can make it super complicated. But and when that happens, we also suffer it. It's not very nice with this mind that pulls and pulls. So allow it to do its thing, but invite. Or we...
Maybe ultimately also these questions.
We're going beyond the time again. Don't be sorry. And if you're not super hungry, we can take also your question.
Like, if it's a whole life concept, how do you give your life a direction? You know, what's your guidance then?
But life happens. This is not many people think that you become passive from practicing meditation, and that I'm just a watcher. I don't engage in anything, so I don't do anything anymore. But that is not it. Life is happening by itself. And if you're going to do absolutely nothing, you also have to resist life. There's a naturalness to it. You can watch it. If you go to dinner now and eat, just watch yourself eating, and also when it's time, without the mind saying, now I should go and put the dishes, just watch that it will happen. There is a naturalness with all those things. You don't have to think the mind loves to say that it takes you from point A to point B. Now I'm walking here, now I'm doing this. And the story afterwards is always like that for the mind. I went to school here, I did this, I chose this, and when I met this person, I chose to marry him or her, blah, 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 whatever. But all those things just happens. They're just a play of life.
But somehow I've decided to stay here, not to stand up and go and eat, you know. And some things,
yes. When the mind is there, then you have a sense of this. You have a sense of choice, and the mind will make these also practical choices. That's also a part of what is happening. But watch it and you will see that much more of it is a natural process than that you have to take action. That taking action happens. And maybe you've been in a situation of crisis at some point, someone gets hurt or something, and you don't have to, I have to help this person right now. You just, then it's very obvious that there is a naturalness to the mind, and if you're aware and the empathy is there, and you just go.
And if the mind is there, you might not go.
Sorry.
If the mind is there, you might not go.
Yes, and if you're so entangled in your thoughts and your identity, you can experience fear from that, and no, it's too dangerous. That is what will hold you back. Also, so the egoic mind is always a bit contorted, a bit forced. So that's also what makes us tired. That is also something you will notice. It takes a lot of energy, and when it's just allowed to happen, then it's very peaceful, very easy. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So nice to see you.